Welcome back to another BRUNCH, your Sunday rendezvous with the hockey coach, your coach franchise directly for the full country of Thailand. And we have the co-host, a special co-host for today. Mr. ENORTAP, directly from Toronto, is in the house this morning. Welcome back.
Good morning, Coach. Good morning, Hockey Nation. Great to be here again, Coach, but we're going to miss Marco, that's for sure.
Yeah, Marco, unfortunately, have some kind of stuff to do with his new house, everything like that, so we're going to miss him. But listen, we have the gold
we wish him
of
the best.
Hockey National Show, the expert about everything. So we'll be all right. We'll be here for 60 minutes today, my ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about the Montreal Canadiens, a couple of news around the Montreal Canadiens. Of course, the NHL news, a lot of news happening for the last couple of days, talking about new hiring. Gary Bettman may interview press conference before the game number one last night between the Vegas and Florida Panthers. We're going to talk about that Stanley Cup final. The combine in Buffalo start today. And then we're going to talk about the NHL draft at the end of the month. This is the big events going on around the NHL, of course. And then so we have a lot on the plate to talk about, Mr. ENORTAP. So let's see what we got for you today, guys. This is exactly what we got. Honestly, app news, NHL news, the Stanley Cup Final 2023 and the Memorial Cup 2023. Talking about the Memorial Cup, Mr. Nata, we're going to do live streaming tonight, live directly from Kamloops. I'm going to do the game between the Salut Thunderbird and the Quebec Ramblers. We're going to talk about this the next couple of minutes. And finally, of course, we're going to talk about, don't forget my NHL prospect scouting report today. It's David Renbacker. Defenseman, where we expect him to be drafted about 5 to 8. What the experts said about this, we'll see if it's happening, Mr. Natap. But we have special people already in the chat, Mr. Natap. I don't know if you know that, but maybe you did not pay attention when I talked to you this morning, and I apologize for that one. But listen, we have the special meet today, Mr. Natap.
Hungry man.
Luciano is really into it. You can see all the mail about that. So it's really healthy. You think about this and wearing the hat of the Montreal Canadiens. So we want to thank Mr. Luciano Graziano to give us all the information about the menu. And if you're hungry, please put on the chat. Someone's going to take care about your menu, everything. We want to set up about this, and we'll be ready for rock and roll the show, Mr. Tap. Anything else you want to bring on the brunch before we start?
Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed with Luciano that he didn't put the dragon fruit in there. It's called the pataya. The pataya, it's very good fruit. It's amazing.
Of course, we need to figure out something, a brunch, Thai food, maybe a brunch morning next week, possibly. We can talk about the chef about this. He can tell us what's going on for that one for sure. But I love the Thai food morning, whatever it is they bring up on the table and just eat like a shark. And Thailand, Mr. Natap. But we have a few people knock the door. We have Larry Lavalley from upstate New York, just at the south of where you at. Mr. Natap is in the house on the great BRUNCH.
Welcome, Larry.
The dragon fruit. Yeah, exactly, the dragon fruit. We talked about this yesterday. We have Roger Delaney, Mr. Natap, and knock the door. Roger Delaney is in the house.
Roger the Master, welcome.
RJ Calabro is, of course, with us today. Thanks so much, RJ, to be with the Hockey Nation Show. Willie Snyder from Denver, Mr. Natap, is in the house.
Hey, Willie.
Welcome back, Willie Snyder. Steve G, here we go. Another from Denver, Mr. Natap. Everybody come from Denver. And then you have a new a Sweden jersey, Mr. Is it Peter Forsberg, Mr. Natap, about Steve G? I think it is.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Nice, very nice. I like it.
Great. I agree with you about that one over there. So, are you ready to rock and roll the show?
Let's do it, Coach.
All right. Let's see what we got for you, everybody. First of all, guys, we're going to talk about the first Montreal Canadiens, the situation with Cole Caufield. We heard from the sick Bobcast a couple of days ago. I don't know, yesterday, the day before. I don't know which day we are anyway. It's not a big deal. One thing we know is Cole Caufield looked like he said he's going to have an agreement of 7-8 years below at $8 million. So below of the contract of Nick Suzuki at $7.785 million AAV. So what is your first impression about the comments, and what do you think about Cole Caufield's situation?
Well, if it maintains to be true, Coach, then I think it's an excellent contract, not only for Caufield, but especially so for Montreal, because one of the things we were sort of debating over the past couple of weeks, and probably even longer, was the money amount that he would come in at. And there were arguments to be made for the fact that it could be more than Suzuki's amount, and there were good arguments also that it should be at the most at Suzuki's level. This appears to be just slightly under, and again, we're going what's in the mirror at the point. And to boot, it's a long-term contract. Is from everything that I gather here, it's a 7 to 8 year possible contract. So you're getting the best of both worlds. The only wild card in all of this, in my eyes, is his health. Right? Like I hope that with the shoulder injury, that everything has gone well. So far, indications seem to point that way, and that he's at his old self again. We know he's been out of action for a while, but he's been skating around. So, if all of this is wrapped up in the next week or so, that'd be fantastic. And I know he enjoys being here in Montreal. He likes to be with Suzuki and some of the teammates that he's with, and he wants to be part of this growing endeavor.
Yeah, well said about this. First of all, we're going to welcome Mr. Brendan Thomas. Is in the house. Welcome, Brendan. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget, guys, to click on the like. And Mr. Roger Conrad, another supporter of the Hockey Nation Show. Both of you, thanks to be with us. So we're going to answer to you, Brendan, the next couple of minutes. But following with Cole Caufield, I'm a little bit shocked, to be honest with you. If I'm Cole Caufield camp, to get a $7-8 million below $8 million, I think is a little bit low for them. If he considers scoring 45 goals per year at the pace he was doing this year, that would be pay under what he's supposed to get, because everybody at 40 goals in NHL National Tap, they carry on about $9 million in NHL.
Yeah, exactly. And I see your point. I mean, the only thing I can think of, like I said, is the injury component. Perhaps, and also the fact that if you look at his statistics, in all fairness, and we do know obviously his pedigree is very good, but there isn't a huge amount of data to go on, right? Like over the last 2 years together, maybe he's played a season, so there's that consistency element that you have to also try to pursue in when you're trying to score a larger contract of that nature. To me, this kind of reminds me a little bit of on a different tangent, but it reminds me of the Draisaitl contract. At the time, it seemed a little bit low for what he was doing in the NHL, and now it's been a steal of a contract for Edmonton. So hopefully that's the case here. You got to keep in mind also that it's not every day that a player says they enjoy being where they're playing at, and that sometimes means more than money alone. So all these things go together in consideration for his decision making.
Yeah, again, for the Montreal Canadiens, if they get him at that money, this is a really big, huge contract for Montreal Canadiens, because now the salary cap is going to increasing for the next 3 years about $8-9 million. So $8 million. So that will be, player we're going to have get a little bit more money. So that's a little bit concern for me. I'm surprised they will sign for 7-8 years. I thought he's going to be a little bit lower, 4 to 6 years. And the $7.5 million for him, I think is fine for right now. But when he's going to finish at this 7-8 years, about 29 years old and 30 years old, a little bit what happened with Jonathan Huberdeau is he will have to perform at the end of his contract very well to get an extra goal contract in NHL. But again, Jack Hughes did it, 8 versus 8. The St. Louis Blues signed Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou, 7 years, 8 years last season. And you can go with Dylan Cousin for the Buffalo Sabres and Matt Boldy. Both of them signed a 7-year contract, about $7 million. So the money is pretty much what is what it's supposed to be. But for me, I thought he's going to be with a British contract. So really interesting what is going to happen with Cole Caufield. Let's move on. We have a good news for the Montreal Canadiens, but until we get the yes. But Logan Mailloux is going to meet Gary Bettman, Mr. ENORTAP, has joined the playoff before the end of the playoff 2023. So expect his reinstallation or his eligibility to come back in NHL, whatever you want to call it. I mean, maybe put out of the jail of the NHL. They have a jail, right? We know that, right? So they may be put out of the jail. And I would like to hear from you. What do you think about Logan Mailloux for the Montreal Canadiens?
Well, let's hope that all this is just procedural. It should be a no-brainer that he gets uh, placed back in. He's done everything right in the last little while to sort of redeem for his mistakes, and I think that's the biggest component to consider. Everything that's been asked of him, he's followed through on. He's improved on his own development as well. Like all the indicators are pointing in the right direction here. So I would be shocked if, for whatever reason, he doesn't get reinstated. But stranger things have happened. Like we're seeing it nowadays on a totally different tangent, but with Quenneville and Bowman as well. I know those were much more drastic cases, and I can understand that to a certain degree. But nothing's always what it seems with the NHL. Like you have to do your due diligence and follow through with everything that there is asked of you, and that's all you can do. You can only control what's in front of you, and I think Mailloux has done that to date so far.
Yeah, I think at some point the NHL requests to the Montreal Canadiens, through by the Montreal Canadiens, to send some kind of course to follow, and he have to establish himself to be reinstalled, but he have to do this A, B, C, exactly like Joel
Sure.
Canville, and Bowman if they want to come back in the NHL, and I think that's happening with Mayu. So I think it's just a kind of formality or
A
for him to be
formality, yeah.
reinstalled after he completely do everything. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
Roger said in the chat, Logan done everything they ask. I cannot see him not. You're absolutely right about that
I agree.
for sure. Um, for Roger. Steve talk about move a Dak to center, trade money in. But honestly, they don't have to trade money in anymore. Steve, he have no he's not honestly with the Montreal Canadiens anymore. He's a UFA at that moment. He had no contract, so he's freedom for Monahan at that moment, Mr. ENORTAP. So, but thanks to join us. Don't forget, guys, to click
The
on the like.
bigger,
So, anything else?
yeah, yeah. I was just going to add the bigger issue was whether we should sign Monahan for a year and then hopefully he builds up his repertoire. He's good for the younger kids, and then maybe trade him at trade deadline time. I think that's what the more prevailing question is.
Yeah. The only thing I would say to you is the fact like Montreal Canadiens need to add a top 6 forward. So it could be Monahan or any other player. They make a trade like they did with Monahan last year for the first round pick. But that would be the point about Sean Monahan. I think that would be a good asset to get Sean Monahan anyway. Talking about Sean Monahan, talking about contract, he don't have no contract. We talk about a new player signing a new contract with the Montreal Canadiens. Michael Pezzetta signing a new contract as a RFA with a Montreal Canadiens. 2 years one way at 800 over a little bit more on $812,000 per AAV. Give us what you think about Michael Pezzetta.
Well, Coach, you know how I feel about Pezzetta. I think that there's definitely a place for him in the Montreal organization. To me, I just capsulize everything by the first thing he said, and that was, "I love being here in Montreal." He's a voice on and off the ice for them. He's a guy that will reinvent himself depending on what the coach wants him to do. And I think last year we saw that happening, right? He had increased time on the penalty kill, and so he learned to harness that a little bit better, how to play the penalty kill a little bit stronger, and we saw results from that. His stats went up a little bit. More importantly, he's there to stand up for anybody on the team. As we know, he might not be a heavyweight when it comes to dropping his gloves, but it doesn't matter to him. He'll take on anybody and everybody that comes his way, and he sees that he needs to protect somebody on the team. He brings that energy to the team and that fourth line. And he's not the kind of guy that's going to mope if you sit him down for a couple games because of inserting somebody else into the lineup or whatever the case might be. So to me, that's a great signing at a great price at $812. It's a one-way contract, I believe, and he's very happy for the next 2 years. That's a great combination.
Yep. Honestly, talk about the blue collar. One who love what he's doing right now with Montreal Canadiens, knows his role, and he accepts everything. For him, it's about every day he wake up as a Montreal Canadiens jersey. That's make him happy, and that's what he bring on the table. And that fill a spot when Montreal Canadiens, they need someone and accept, to be healthy scratch. Whatever they ask him to do, he will do it. And that's what you need sometime at the bottom of your lineup. And that's what he's doing now. Now, the fact like he got some kind of opportunity at the end of the season, but now with all the rookies coming and all the prospects they have, plus the player they got now under contract, it's going to be a bit harder for Michael Pezzetta to stay as a part of the roster. Now we see what's happening at the training camp. He could be sent back in Laval, go on the waiver and see if they're going to be claimed. But again, they gave him some kind of security for what he bring on the table for the last couple of years. So well done for the Montreal Canadiens to get him. Last year, he had 7 goals, 8 assists, 15 points in 63 games with 77 minutes of penalty with the Montreal Canadiens. We have new people in the chat, Mr. ENORTAP. First of all, I want to forget Dixon. Automobile was here earlier. I was looking for his sound effect, but because the BRUNCH have his own profile, we don't have this sound effect on the car racing, and then I apologize for Dixon, but welcome back, Dixon Automobile, and thanks to be with us. And then we have Mr. Gilbert Cameron is in the house. Thanks so much for to be with us. Don't forget, guys, to click on the like. And then Mr. ENORTAP, Rudolph is in the house. Rudolph is an excellent fantasy hockey player. Michael fantasy about that. What about Zev Lecab, Mr. ENORTAP? We have Zev. Here we go. Check your plate.
Hey,
check your plate. The Batman should let the HABS manage the Mailloux dossier, just oversee what they are doing. They are undermining what the HABS have done in Mailloux reputation. I think there's a great comments about that. He is the second one mentioned that, Mr. ENORTAP, after Gilbert said the same thing about the NHL. I think they should only overview and oversee what they have to do, Montreal Canadiens. I agree with that comments. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's absolutely undermining them. But at least Montreal has done what they're supposed to do. Mailloux has followed through with what he has to have done, and you know what? He's going to have to jump through hoops. That's the bottom line. But as long as he keeps following through, I don't see any problems down the road. We all know what it's about at the NHL level. A lot of it is power and overseeing the whole organization and how it's run. So you either have to play that game or it's not going to bode very well for you.
Yeah, that's right. We want to welcome this morning THG, Mr. ENORTAP, for the New York Islanders fans. We did not see for a long time. Please
welcome, THG.
And glad to have you aboard, guys. Don't forget to go click on the like. We're going to move on all the way where we got. Well, we have an HABS prospect Canadian, Montreal Canadiens draft last season during the NHL draft 2022. Montreal Canadiens select from the Seattle Thunderbird. We'll talk about the memorial card in the next couple of minutes. But Jared Davidson was drafted by the Montreal Canadiens, and honestly, not many people followed a lot of junior WHL, OHL, or the QM, and then someone pop up at Memorial Cup, pay a little bit more attention, And really great story about Davidson. I just read an article about him a couple of days ago. But what do you think about the performance? We know he have no contract with Montreal Canadiens. I think it's just a question of time for the Montreal to offer him a contract, and he's looking great for the Seattle Thunderbird.
He has, Coach. I mean, to me, it's a quite a pleasant surprise with regards to where Davidson has come to, and it's good news all around for the Montreal organization. If you look at Seattle right now, I believe he's the second leading scorer in the Memorial Cup right now. He's been playing some great hockey, but he's been doing it for a while. It's not just the tournament here that he's performing in. He's been, yeah, I mean, you did a video not too long ago that highlighted three of the key prospects for Montreal, and he was one of the three that you outlined, and you did it very well in looking at what he's done over the past, I'd say, 4 or 5 months. So I think it's a great position to be in if you're Montreal, and he's done a lot to promote his own portfolio.
Yeah, that's right. Great story about him. He never drafted by the WHL. He was a skip as when he was midget, and then he was not drafted NHL 2 years, 18 years old, 19 years old, until the Montreal Canadiens select him last year, and then that proved he was right. Great story about how he become a great hockey player. He scored like 42 goals 2 years ago, 38 goals this year with the Seattle Thunderbird, and he beat all the time the odds. Sometimes like Martin Saint Louis or some different players in the NHL never be drafted, right? They're undrafted and make the NHL, and then they become a great hockey player. And I said Davidson is going to be an excellent NHL player, but the fact that he never be drafted and then he got the he go against the odds. I think that's pretty impressive for Davidson he bring.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he have no contract. He should get a contract and play for the Laval Rocket next season, like Zev said about him. I think you never know. It could be a player like Jake Evans, example, 7th-round pick by the Montreal Canadiens. And look what Jake Evans bring on the table for the Montreal for the last 2 years. Scored 13 goals not last year, but the year before that. So, I don't know. It's maybe a guy like this. He looked like a prototype player like RHP, Gallagher style. They all play with energy all the time. They always go in on every shift. And that's the kind of player you like to get on your organization, whatever it's Montreal or the Laval Rocket.
Exactly. And you hit the nail on the head when you compared him with RHP, at least in terms of his story and building to where he's at right now. So that's just a small lesson in showing that you can go far if you have the proper attitude and the mindset.
That it goes with that. That's maybe the kind of the foundation where the Montreal Canadiens try to build with around the Montreal Canadiens. So by Hugo, by the new staff management. The next news, Mr. Natap, we're going to go with we don't hear a lot about him. Carey Price, new role with the Montreal Canadiens. They have two teams have a kind of the goaltending hockey staff goalies committee. You have the Panthers start this couple of years ago, and then the Los Kings did it 2 years ago. But they are the only two teams, and possible the Montreal Canadiens could sit with Carey Price and make him to become director of the goalies, supervise all the goalies inside the organization Montreal Canadiens. Roberto Leandro did it when he got retired. When he got retired, he decided to be a part of the management of the Florida Panthers. Right now, he is with them since that date he got retired. The conversation started with Carey Price. Make some kind of coaching with Samuel Montembeault, prepare him to go to Team Canada, and now that news get a little bit more deeper and mentioned possible Carey Price now not retired as a hockey player yet, but he can play a role like Sean Weber did with the Las Vegas Golden Knights last year. And what do you think about this? If Carey Price could be involved with the Montreal Canadiens at the time he cannot play anyway.
I would go a step further, Coach, and I would say he should be involved. I mean, I know I understand understand the CBA and how it works and whatnot, but here you have a player that has immeasurable experience and experience that he can bring to the table to the organization, but more so to the goalies that come up the system, right? And why not get him involved? We're seeing some of the changes in Montebello's game. I looked at Monty quite closely at the Worlds, and you saw fingerprints of things that Price does in his game that you didn't see last year so much, and very little this year as well. But his style, his way of just remaining calm and collected, no matter what the level of stress is in the game, right? He's very, very collected and was able to, go through a lot of different obstacles as they came up. So why not bring him there? And for Carey Price, it makes sense too. I mean, if he's ever considering possibly going, the administrative route in the NHL, this is a great starting point for him, and I think it would benefit him. It would give him some experience as well. So I think it's a win-win situation.
You're absolutely about that. Is if you want to do this, like Martin Brodeur did it, right? Many goaltender in NHL become a staff management at some point in the hockey operation. And if you want to do that, I think it will be a great opportunity for him. Talking about the same way, but I don't have no mention, is Paul Biron. We did not hear from Paul Biron yet
Yes,
about what's going on with him. But possible if he don't he decide to retire, not play in play in the whatever Sweden or Swiss or whatever you want to play, and maybe decide to stay in the with the Montreal Canadiens. I think Montreal could use him as a scout or someone. He can be a part of the organization with the Montreal Canadiens.
definitely. I think that's an excellent example of somebody that can help out your organization as well. And again, we go back to these are all people. If you look at them closely, Coach, they're all people that love to be with this organization. And when you have that, I don't want to say it's rare, but it's not a common thing in the NHL with a lot of these players. A lot of them just follow the money route, but some players do it because they love the city, they love the team, they love the environment that their kids are growing up in, and so this is a great way to give back and also promote yourself for the future.
Yep, great comments for about people about Humus on Tap. So glad to hear that. Nicolas de Gobi Bono just knocked the door. Welcome back, Nicolas. Thanks again,
Welcome,
everybody. Don't
Nicola.
forget, guys, to click on the like. That'll be awesome. That'd be great. We talk about, I do app daily news every day, usually. At least I try to do it every morning, 7 o'clock a.m. or 11 o'clock. And I do a lot of great rumor with the Montreal Canadiens. That's not going happening. But maybe you start with that trade, and then after that you add players, or you just wrap player, you change the trade, everything like that. And we talk about the Anthony Mantha with the Washington Capitals. What do you feel that Montreal Canadiens should make a move for Anthony Mantha or not make a move for Anthony Mantha? Whatever is the proposal, could be only a buyout, whatever it is.
Well, it's not a bad idea. It's sort of reminiscent of what happened with Monahan last year, right? Washington needs to clear up some cap space, I believe. And for Montreal at this point, they're not ready just yet to be a playoff team unless, absolutely everything goes right for them this year. So, why not bring him on? I mean, he does have, I know he hasn't had a great season. Things haven't worked out for him since he was traded to Washington, I believe, for Verbata at the time. Um, but I think part of that is I don't think he had the opportunity to really showcase himself. I think he sat a lot of games, unfortunately, and his mindset wasn't in the proper place, I would say. And I think he's kind of admitted that as well. He only blames himself from everything I read that he should have stayed more in tune with the game and kept working and waiting for his opportunity to get back into the lineup and then try to exert himself a little bit more. But it didn't happen, unfortunately. Maybe a switch in venue and coming to Montreal. One of our greater emphasis in the last year and a half has been to implement people that will definitely help them develop in the manner in which they should. He's not old. He's, I think, 29, I want to say. But he is making a hefty contract at 5.5 or 5.6 million right now. So I don't know what the trade would look like, Coach. But if it brought us maybe something significant, and again, I always hate speculating with rumors because that's really all they are. But if it did and it made sense for Montreal and it helped Washington from their perspective, why not?
Yeah, yeah, two options, right? The Washington can buy him out, or they can offer Manta to Montreal with a pick or a prospect, whatever they want to do it, and Montreal get him. Montreal have those kind of flexibility to get an Anthony Manta at $5.7 million for 1 year, and that opened the door exactly what Sean Monahan. So he's going to be a top 6 or maybe a top 9. Montreal don't have a lot of big size. He play winger, by the way, and he don't have a lot of big size, 6'5", 6'4", 6'3" on the winger. They are more small. And then, so
Yeah.
yeah, but he can pick up a spot of someone. I would say to you, not really. If they trade to Hoffman out of the lineup for the upcoming summer, right? I think they'll be fine. And then after that, they couldn't to get him, and they can have us. I don't know. He scored 15 goal, example, from the beginning to the middle, the trade deadline. Maybe you can get another pick and return for Anthony Manta, and he's looking good. And you really like what he bring on the table because he can score. The guy can play hockey. What for some reason happening to him, we don't know. It's happening before Guillaume Latendresse. It's happening to. Benoit, Pouliot. Yeah. And then, he was injured for the last couple of years for Anthony Manta. Again, we're just talking about who can help in the Montreal Canadiens. So that will be something to follow up on the development of the situation with Manta. With Manta playable, definitely himself like Cav is going to be on the third line. And then I would not be surprised he can play on power play on the second unit. About this with Mr. Natal. We have Stu Pidasso is in the house.
Hey, Stu.
Welcome back. As an AV contract for low production, is that yes? So this is only for 1 year. He become UFA after that. So it's exactly like Sean Monahan, guys. If you think about Sean Monahan before he came with Montreal, low production, it was healthy scratch, big problem with the coach over there, and the Calgary decided to let him go and to get some kind of movement to sign Nizam Kadri, but they have to move on and money in. That cost them a first-round pick. The situation of Washington Capitals, you have to be careful. It's not a team right now on the rebuilding. I know they make some trade at the trade deadline, so they gave up. Be careful. When they trade those players, it's because they are all UFA, and they're going to lose them at the end of summer. And return, they got Ramos sent in with the Toronto Maple Leafs, by the way. And now they have a lot of UFA inside their team as a defenseman, like John Carlson is one of them. During the summer, a couple of weeks ago, they signed the defenseman TVR with the team in Jensen over there. So they still have a couple of players to sign up, and the team is getting older. I don't think so. They will let go of Ovechkin to do a team to rebuilding. So I think they would take advantage of get maybe a trade to get something and to build more money on the flexibility to sign a UFA during the summer. I got a Tarasenko example.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean,
you know what I mean?
A lot of Russians like to go to Washington, that's for sure.
Yeah. As Zev said, Manta is a brilliant skater with great speed. He is a dangerous scorer with a very good shot, a quick release, what he's allowed to use. And Manta has very good size and reach. Yeah, absolutely about this. About Manta, and I think that would be maybe a good fit if everything turn around to be good on that size. How much ice time would Jacky get this season, Mr. Natap?
Well, he'll probably be, I want to say either in the second or the third pairing. Probably more than likely it'll be in the third pairing. But I see him getting all of the Montreal defense pretty much a consistent amount of ice time, short of the special teams, of course. I think that's the way to go when you're trying to develop a young corpse of or a young group of defenders like they're trying to do. Of course, you're going to look at somebody like Matheson to lead the way. You also don't want Savard to be playing a lot of ice time as well, because he's more effective when he plays a little bit less. So the other ones, I see Gooley's time going up a little bit. Harris, perhaps. Kovacevic will, dance around the same numbers, I think. But Jack Eye is going to be there. I don't see his ice time diminishing.
I'm going to surprise you. I would not be surprised Jakai start a Laval Rocket.
You think so? Why?
Injury. The time he's going to reestablish himself and to for sure, because now we think about this, and I don't say negativity right there. I just said I would not be surprised. The reason behind that on the TOI, I think it would be limited because you have Madison and Cooley in front of him. And then the third pairing with Harris, everything like that. So if they feel the Montreal Canadiens or maybe need to get him more time, ice time to play in American Hockey League for the beginning of October example. And I just said that like an option for the Montreal Canadiens with all the defensemen they have right now under the, with Savard and Kovacevic and everybody like that. I think they could add those kind of options. And I said he would start there, but because at some point, if they have to put Harris, Jacky, Coley, Madison, they have to move a left defenseman on the right side, Mr. ENORTAP. So I think it's too high, cannot give too much too high. Again, this could be a same thing with Sarkowski, could be another player have a surgery during this for a couple of months and to come back at 100%, I think it could be an option. Again, not to say he will miss the training, he will be cut because they're not performing for security or just to put him to reestablish at 100%. This is what they have in their hands, like a flexibility to make those kind of move if they want with Jacky. So for TOI, I don't see too much at the beginning of the year. It all depends what it will be the situation with Cooley and Madison and their 6-7 defensemen they have for the beginning of the season. I don't know what you think about that option.
Yeah. No, you bring up a good point there, Coach. I hadn't really thought of that, and given that one of the focus that both Hughes and Gorton spoke about this year, and it was the amount of missed time by a lot of players due to injuries. They said they were going to really scrutinize this over the course of the year and make sure that their decision making about players getting back on the ice when they're 100% healthy is more dictated in science and their experience rather than what the players are telling them. Because of course, 99% of the players will say, yeah, I feel fine. Let me just get back on the ice, knowing that it's their career on the line here and they don't want to miss any time. So yeah, that makes total sense that they might give him a stint in the AHL first or in Laval first, and then bring him up if they see that he's perfectly okay.
Yeah, again, that's an option. We'll see what's happening at the training camp, maybe something like that. But if ever you have some kind of, not reestablish at 100%. Welcome, Mr. Robin Allen. Thanks to be with our Canadian show. We talk about the Pittsburgh Rangers, possible Capo, Lafreniere is involved with some kind of name for the Montreal Canadiens. The Pittsburgh Penguins, where they are there, because possibly they could trade the 11 overall pick they have with the Montreal Canadiens 14. And they could have those kind of traits with the Montreal Canadiens. We're not going to go to multi-bird. We already hit the 45. We try to get this at 60 minutes today, guys. So let's move on for the next news. We started to talk about the Montreal Canadiens NHL combined. And the president talk about this, guys, because now the NHL combined starts today in Buffalo. And they've been there for the last season too. The Montreal Canadiens make a huge impact during the combine. So what is a combine? But you have this year over 100 players, 106 for what I heard, are going to be all in Buffalo this year, and they're going to performing the testing, agility, speed. I can go all the way like this, and then after that, you're going to have those kind of period interview with its front team in the NHL. Montreal last season was a little bit more with less player. Like they knew at some point was Cooley, Shane Wright, or possible Sarkowski, and they maybe add one defenseman for the first overall pick. Now they pick number 5. They are not sure if Woodsmith will be available. They're not sure if Mantelli will be there, or Mitchka will be there. 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 Or Mitchka Carlson. So they have to pick those players to interview. Then you can go with Leonard, Rimbacher, Devoski, and I can go. So this is going to be a really important week for the Montreal Canadiens to interview all the players, and they have some kind of the boundaries, or they're looking for to get those kind of players inside they have the Montreal Canadiens for the future. So there's really important days for the Montreal Canadiens and for the young prospect for the NHL Draft 2023 is going to be at June 28 and June 29. So give us a bit more what you think about the combine for the Montreal Canadiens.
I think I mean, it's always been a great idea to have them, of course. I mean, when you stop to think about it, Coach, it's really, the last pit stop that awaits this year's top prospects, like on their way to onto their in this case, 2023 draft year. You mentioned that we have, I believe, 106 prospects that are going there. I think like 65% of them are forwards. There's even, I think, 6 or 7 goalies that are going this year. So it's great because it gives them that final box to check off in terms of the scouting reports, and it looks at their physical testing, it looks at their medical assessments that they have to go through. But more importantly, and I think it happens somewhere between the 5th and the 9th of June, that they get an opportunity, all 32 teams get an opportunity to meet one-on-one with whomever they want to meet with in terms of the prospects. So if there's anybody that's sort of on the boundary and they want to sort of, dig a little bit deeper in terms of their even their mental makeup, and this is a great opportunity to do that. And also, I like the fact that the media is given a day to talk to a lot of the prospects. Now, granted, a lot of times their main focus will be on, the top 5 to 10 drafts of the pool, but it's good to see how they react to when they're in front of, large media and the cameras on them specifically. And we saw that last year with Wright and Slafkovsky, and you get a little bit of a glimpse in terms of their character and whether they'll fit into your plan. So the results are what they are. It's unfortunate that Michkov won't be there. I believe he will be at the draft, but he won't be at the combines. It would have been nice to see him under that same light as everybody else right now. But we'll wait and see. But it's going to be an interesting week for sure.
Yeah, absolutely right about that. We'll see. Interesting if it's happening for the NHL combine. Like the Hockey National Show with Update News, going to provide you guys news every day and update about what Montreal, maybe interview players and who get the steak this year, the dinner at the table with the Montreal Canadiens. Sarkozy didn't get it, and Shane White got it. But who has the last piece of the steak? It was Sarkozy at the trade at the NHL draft. Let's move on. What we got here, Mr. Natap, the Memorial Cup final game tonight. The Seattle Thunderbird versus Quebec Remparts, 7:00. We'll be live for everybody. You can join me live tonight. It's going to be a play-by-play, but because it's not like usually we do the NHL, but we're going to talk about hockey for sure, for see what the game look like. And again, like Montreal have Davidson as a prospect, and then Quebec Remparts is going to try to win the Memorial Cup for the QM. So what are your expectations for that game tonight, and what will be your prediction? Who you think is going to win, Mr. ENORTAP, before we move on for the last subject, the NHL news?
Well, we talked a little bit about it prior to the Memorial Cup's beginning, and I had mentioned I like Seattle's chances, obviously, and here we are at the end, and they're in the finals. I was sort of probably from a biased point of view hoping that Peterborough would be in there as well, although I knew that even though they were a well-balanced team, and they did provide quite a push at the end to try to get into the finals. But I'm glad to see Quebec there. I think that they have some players that we don't talk about too much. I like what James Malatesta's done with the team so far. It's not like they have glowing um, players. I mean, with the exception of the goaltending, perhaps I would say that they've been true to the definition of being a team, and they come at you with a great forecheck. Their power play is clicking at about an 83% right now. Their penalty kill, sorry, not their penalty kill is at an 83%. Their penalty kill is at around the 25%. So those are good numbers, boding for them going into this finals against Seattle. They should make for a great game for sure. I still think Seattle's a little bit too much for them to handle, but you never know, especially when it's down to the one game.
Yeah, all depends on William Rousseau, the goaltender for Quebec Rempart, and Rouchon or Rochette for the Quebec Rempart, and then, of course, Nathan Gaucher for them. On the flip side, Southern Kraken have a really good, forward and powerhouse with Davidson, Lambert, everybody else. Will be a good game to see tonight at the Memorial Cup. Talking about Memorial Cup, it was for I want to give you a news here. Connor Bedard become the first to be named top prospect, top scorer, and the player of the year and the junior MVP. Never happened to any players that play in the CHL. So never happened to Connor McDavid or any other player. So really impressive for what Connor Bedard got this year. He won all the biggest trophy for the CHL Canadian Hockey League, prospect, scorer, and MVP. So pretty amazing about that. We have about 7-8 minutes, Mr. Tap. Want to talk about the NHL news. Really busy this week in NHL. It was a good timing. You have a couple of days off between the game, between everything happening around the league. But we have a couple of new hiring left and right. I'm going to give you who they are, and maybe you can pick one of them or select what you think you want to talk about. Toronto Maple Leafs select Brett Drevelin as a new GM for the Toronto Maple Leafs. At the same time, the ex-GM Carl Dubas got hired as the president of hockey operation for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Washington signed the new head coach, Stephen Cabaret. Following by Calgary Flame signed the new GM, Craig Conroy. Columbus Blue Jackets on negotiation with Mike Babcock, what we heard the last rumor. Finally, the Nashville Predators signed the new head coach, Andrew Brunette. If you have other news, I apologize, but that's what I got right now for Mr. Tap. If I put him more news, he would be messed up. So I'll go with 6. That'd be enough for him. But just give you a little bit more what you think. He can jump in one-to-one, whatever you want to talk. I will going to add more if you need something after that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, the one that stands out the most is the Toronto-Pittsburgh exchange here. Trey Living, not a surprise that he landed in Toronto. I think there was a lot of conversation around that. It just, this whole exercise and this occurrence just reeks of what was happening here in Toronto, right? And it was pretty much about a power struggle, I think, between Dubas and Shanahan. I think Dubas, not only did he want the extra money, but he also wanted a seat at the table when it came to higher up decision making processes. And for the longest time, we thought, okay, he might land in Pittsburgh, but we were thinking as a GM. Never did we think he would be as director. Now it begs the question. I know he said that in Pittsburgh he's going to manage things for the next 30 days or so, but who's coming in as a GM? And I would say, again, I don't have any background to say this, but I will say it. Do not be surprised if you see Spezza land in Pittsburgh as your new GM. Somebody that gets along very well with him and is probably thinking of pursuing that direction himself for the future. And somebody that Dubas will still have the final decision over Spezza in case of bringing in players or making major decisions. So that part there is I still say there's many chapters to be written between this whole saga in Toronto and now extended into Pittsburgh. Good luck to Dubas, because I don't think it's an easy job. He's gonna, if he thought he had a tough time in Toronto, this is going to be tough, because Pittsburgh is not a team that's necessarily on the rise. They're more so on the decline, especially with the age of some of their players. And you can candy coat it and dress it up any way you like, but they did not make the playoffs this year. And to boot, they had a healthy Crosby, who had a very good year. Um, uh, they had Malkin, who was relatively injury free this year. Letang had a decent year, even though he was injured. Like, this team does not have like a plethora of young kids that are going to be coming up in the system that you're going to say they're going to succeed certain players. And traditionally, Crosby and Malkin have been very injury prone along the course of the season. So I think he's got a big job ahead of him. The only one, the other one I want to comment on, I guess, would be in Columbus. Came a bit as of a shock to me that they would go that direction with Babcock, because I think, as much as Babcock is I think a very good coach, I think he does better with more established players, teams that have already a good core of players. And in Columbus, you're going to have to develop some of these younger kids that are coming up through the system. They've drafted relatively well. They'll have obviously a great pick coming up this year. So I don't know if that's necessarily the best person to put in that situation, but clearly they saw something that we didn't, and we'll see how that develops.
Yeah, the only thing I would say to you, they were going to make, because I think in Toronto, when they got Dubas won his own man, everything like that, I think that would change his backup. Because at the end of the day, backup was doing a good job with Toronto. The team was
Yeah,
performing,
absolutely.
right? So I think for me, with Columbus, the fact it would bring his work ethic backup work very well. He's very organized, very structured, very good about the way he teaches the
Excellent.
team
Yeah.
on the fun thing to become a professional hockey player. So I think he brings some kind of asset when it comes to the jacket. I would remember someone told me, when you show up to the any place to have a new job, and when you left the job because you get fired, whatever it is, right? If you put that team better when you're leaving, when you get you get it when you show up, that's you make a good job. I think Carl Dubas, that's what he did over there with the Toronto Maple Leafs compared to Ron Extall with the Pittsburgh. He left the team more on the trouble versus what they want when they hire him and Burke. Talk about the trade he did like last year with Jeff Petrie for Madison. Talk about Marino for Ty Smith. That's too bad thing of that. His contract he gave an extra
Yeah.
year for Jeff Carter. Now it's not good. I think Dubas have a good big job to do right now, but I think he can turn around very quickly. They have some kind of flexibility with the money. They have a UFA Dumoulin and Zucker right now, plus Travis Jarry. So they can changing very quickly to get maybe John Gibson for Anaheim Ducks example. And you can make, he can make very quickly. Not said Pittsburgh going to be an amazing, great team, but I think he has some kind of the leverage to make something quicker, faster for Malkin and Crosby and Letang. But it's something we have to follow up the next couple weeks with the Montreal Canadiens. On the flip side, we have Mr. Cowboy Steak is in the house. Thanks so much to be with the Hockey National Show. We appreciate that. Milwaukee Mirror, not the Brewers. You're absolutely about that one over there. Could you imagine if the Pittsburgh knocked it out the further from the playoff spot? It lost the Bruins round one. Yeah, that's happening about this for sure. On that one, I want to get on the one. The big rumor get out today. The Chicago Blackhawks may be running after Austin Matthews.
Yeah, that's the latest one. I mean, there's a number of them that are centered around Matthews, and every day, coach, especially here in Toronto, you're hearing different stories. I think Trey Lavin put it best when he said, like, one of the reporters asked him, what's your priority on the list right now, and he said it's going to be about Matthews right now. He said there's a lot of things on the table, but right away I'm going to hop on a plane. I'm going to go speak with him, and I think basically what they want is they're going to probably have some kind of contract with a number on it, obviously, to offer Matthews, and their intention is to see does he sign at this amount. If not, then they have to quickly, do a reverse and look at different options, and then these rumors become a lot more viable, right? I still think there's more flexibility in him going to a team like LA. Up until the referendum vote, I would have said Arizona as well, but that went south quickly, and it looks like a lot of players are trying to get out of Arizona now. So I don't see that as much. Chicago, I don't know how that fits in, to be totally honest, because they're in a major rebuilding phase themselves. So guess what? I don't think Matthews is going to see playoffs, even if he goes to Chicago for a number of years before it becomes relevant, right? And so I don't know
Usually,
if he wants to be
a
a
player
part of
like
that.
Connor Bedard got drafted. They make the playoff 2 years after that, and worst case 3 years. So if you think about this, if Matthews become UFA in 2024, that will give him 1 year over. So I will make Chicago Blackhawks ready to rock and roll the year after that. So he'll be maybe 1 year before he become. I understand your situation about Chicago, Toronto, or any other team in NHL. But I think if you can add Matthews and Bedard, Chicago's going to have a lot of money for him anyway.
Oh, they definitely have the cap space. That's not the issue. I'm just thinking more. Even if you get into the playoffs, you still have to go through those growing pains that we've seen many teams have had to go through over the past few years. We saw it with Colorado. We see it this year so far with Florida. We saw it with Tampa Bay. They had to do a lot of losing before they climbed that mountain, and it takes time. And he's not getting any younger.
You're absolutely right about that for sure. We'll go to finish it with the NHL news around the league. Gary Bettman talked about Arizona situation where it's not looking good. They tried to figure out, they tried to leave the team there. They tried to get other options. The NBA is not going to happen. And the worst case, they have to be sure for the director of the NHLPA, the new director, executive Michael Wash, to be sure that they have to figure out the next couple of weeks, a month, what will be with Arizona or possibly to moving. The salary cap is going to be increasing only $1 million. So for the upcoming season, $83.5 million. So it looked like Gary Bettman confirmed this today. And finally, Ottawa Senator was still the drama or whatever you want to call it is going to be not announced very soon. They said negotiation. It looked like it's going to be a little bit longer about that. Any comments you want to add about that?
I'm totally befuddled by the Ottawa situation. I'll be honest with you. It's I don't know how they don't have a group that's taking the team over now. The NHL is dragging their feet with this. They seem to be playing a game of chicken here and wanting more and more in terms of the offering price. And Ottawa's coming to a point where, they have a very good team of young players and prospects in their system. They're definitely going in the right direction. But something like this, the more it delays, the more it hurts the organization from many perspectives, not the least of which having to produce a good draft this year, having to go in and the UFA agency and try to either pick up prospects or trades or whatever the case might be. So this has me totally baffled why it hasn't been settled. With Arizona, we talked a little bit about it earlier. I think a lot of it pivoted around the referendum vote, which surprisingly went the way it went because all indicators seem to point towards the team staying there and the deal being done. So we'll see what happens, Coach.
We'll see what happens. You're absolutely right about that, Mr. ENORTAP. We try to keep the show at the limit. We try to go all the subject. People pop up a little bit late and they try to talk about different subject. But listen, we're going to be back next week for another special edition. That will be interesting. We did not have no time to talk about the game one of the playoff Stanley Cup. Only in 30 seconds, Mr. Tap. What do you think about the performance last night, both teams?
I thought the score was not a good indicator of the game itself, being 5-2. I thought till the end of the second period, pretty much it was an even game for both teams. There were two TSN turning points in my eye. Number one was the big paddle save that Hill made on Cousins in the early part of the second period. And then that's Stone goal that made it 4-2. And there was a bit of discussion about the high stick, bringing the puck down and then scoring. So those are two critical points in the game that changed the complexion of it.
Yeah, absolutely right. I will add one more. The big save of Adden Hill against Nick Cousin at the beginning of the second period. About that one over there with the stick was this one with Alex Prudentiado saved the situation with the stick after that. So, yes, now it's only for game number one. Going to be interesting how the flip and able to readjust. So we'll be live at Monday night, guys. We invite you to join me live tonight. Quebec Campbell versus the Seattle Thunderbirds, 7 o'clock p.m. Mr. Notaire, it was a pleasure to have you again as the co-host of the BRUNCH Sunday Rendezvous. Hopefully, Marco will join us next week, guys. We wish you an amazing, great Sunday, everybody. Enjoy the brunch and make it by Luciano Graziano, Mr. Notaire. And hopefully we're going to see you next time before we leave, Mr. Notaire. We have to tell you that because you deserve it. You have greatness inside of you, Mr. Notaire. We wish you an amazing, great day. Until then, be well, be healthy. Find a way not only to donate your day, find a way to donate the first half of what, Mr. Notaire?
Year 2023.
You did it again. Have an amazing, great day, everybody.
Good night, Coach. Good night, Hockey Nation.